The Wirecard scandal is presented to the public as a balance sheet scandal. During my time as a consultant at Wirecard, I got to know the company well and took a deep look at the company and its business. Based on my findings, I made a 34-page dossier available to the Bundestag Investigative Committee on November 17, 2020, entitled "The Failure of the BaFin in the Wirecard Case." While some of my findings were published by Finance-Scene.de under the title "BaFin carried out a major special audit at the Wirecard Bank," the investigative committee of the German parliament did not include the findings I presented in its report. No significant questions were asked about it either. On the one hand, this channel will therefore deal with financial scandals and their backgrounds, and on the other hand, I will clear up many myths about the banking business and its regulation at this point. Hello. Today I am one of the leading consultants in the field of banking supervision in Germany, and as such I am also a business analyst and data scientist. Since I entered the industry 10 years ago as one of the youngest consultants, I have advised large and small banks on 20 different projects. Since November 25, 2019, the BaFin has listed me as a whistleblower under file number HESQB 9100-2019/826 at a time when I witnessed a particularly brazen case of money laundering at an average-sized Hessian savings bank. In this context, it will be shown that the resignation of the Hessian Prime Minister Volker Bouffier cannot be attributed to health or age reasons when he announced his resignation to the affected savings bank in the city of all places. It will be shown how this decision is obviously more related to the death of the Hessian Finance Minister Schäfer and his staff. The video series I present below deals with money laundering in Germany and how German authorities and politicians take every conceivable measure to prevent an investigation. In addition to the aforementioned money laundering procedure at the savings banks, which is managed by the BaFin under file number GW2FR 618100,672-2020/1, I will explain how the corporate structures at Wirecard not only represented an open invitation to money laundering, but as these have also brought with them the advantages of particularly low fees for processing these transactions. Inevitably, this can only lead to one conclusion. Wirecard was a listed money laundering machine with the blessing of politicians, particularly the Bavarian state government. The legal proceedings against the Wirecard Board of Directors must be considered as a smokescreen to distract from money laundering at Wirecard. This is the only way to explain why the Bundestag Investigative Committee has hardly dealt with the issue of money laundering at Wirecard in its preliminary result. In the course of this, one will also be able to answer the question of whether the former head of the BaFin, Mr. Felix Hufeld, rather got dismissed because of my revelations of the Bundestag Investigative Committee. Since I never made myself liable to prosecution in my investigative work, for example by stealing company information, I had to align my work from the start in such a way that the money launderers would expose themselves. This means meticulous and targeted work in compliance with all regulations and responsibilities. Apart from that, in this series of videos I will describe how I took various measures to gain access to Wirecard's business data. So far, unsuccessfully, this has included locating Jan Marsalek through my lawyer in Moscow and convincing him to make his data available to me. A few weeks ago, my attorney asked me if I was okay and safe, anticipating what could happen to me if I exposed money laundering in Germany in general, money laundering at Wirecard in particular, and the money launderers themselves. I fled Germany on September 5, 2020 out of fear of reprisals and political persecution. With the letter from the Bavarian Ministry of the Interior dated January 9, 2023 under the file number C5142-73088 KOP, this fear has been shown to be justified. Before that, on September 19, 2021, the Bavarian Prime Minister Markus Söder was asked to resign due to his involvement in the Wirecard scandal, and in response to this, he took influence on a staged court case. The obvious aim was to be able to persuade foreign governments to extradite me to German authorities as part of the sentence obtained. As expected, The Munich Public Prosecutor's Office rejected my criminal complaint against Mr. Soder under file number 115 AR 1945/23 for the reason that it was just about conspiracy fantasies. The corresponding evidence was also not considered by the Attorney General under file number 500 and 3Zs 621/23. One would be surprised at how easy it is for German authorities to stage court proceedings and abuse them for political purposes. My reports will show how the government of a European country, name will not be given, was deceived after the Bavarian state government's conspiracy was exposed, and that country's domestic intelligence service attempted to attack me. In the context of a crime, extradition to German authorities should be justified instead. We'll also report on how my EU petitions 954/2021, rejection of Germany as the seat of a European anti-money laundering authority, 1338/2021, removal of Elke Koenig as head of the SRB, and 57/2022, call to strengthen the EBA's equipment for investigating money laundering, especially at Wirecard, were rejected. The Munich Public Prosecutor's Office would probably also classify the idea that these well-founded petitions were stopped after political intervention by German politicians as conspiracy fantasies. Likewise, one could devalue my disclosing work as querulous, would there not be there that large interest to silence me down. Time will tell if my petition 571/2023, dated 5/23/2023, Revision of Regulation, EU, 2019/1937 to better protect whistleblowers, will also be rejected. The regulation is aimed only at protecting whistleblowers in the context of employment relationships. The wish announced by German Finance Minister Christian Lindner on August 24, 2022, that Germany should no longer be a paradise for money laundering will be set in a new light based on my revelations. According to information provided by me, the Federal Minister of Finance and his head of the BaFin, Mr. Mark Branson, would have had the opportunity to do so if there was a serious intention to follow up this announcement with action. According to her letter of May 22, 2023, the Federal Interior Minister Nancy Faeser is already certain not to make any contribution on revealing money laundering the then savings bank in case of a victory in the Hessian state elections. By that, she steps into the footprints of the current incumbent Boris Rhein. In order to be able to understand my knowledge of money laundering in Germany, it is necessary to consider my personal experiences and background. For a better understanding, this documentation will take a look back to the year 2000, the time of my studies. My field reports will therefore start in the middle of the events, the Wirecard-Scandal, and will be structured in 4 seasons according to the following outline. Subject to change. Without the business data, the money launderers cannot be explicitly named by me. My criminal complaint against unknown persons for money laundering and against the members of the Management Board of Wirecard AG for aiding and abetting money laundering dated January 28, 2021, under file number 402 AR 1947/21, at the Munich Public Prosecutor's Office 1 explicitly describes the group of money launderers. On February 26, 2023, I informed the insolvency administrator of Wirecard AG, Mr. Michael Jaffe, how the money launderers at Wirecard can be easily found using the data available to him and requested him to hand them over to me. With his answer of March 21, 2023, he refuses to release it. This behavior is unusual. Usually, my experience shows that as soon as I have successfully put pressure on authorities to provide information and the corresponding answers would be compromised, I do not receive any feedback. A rogue who thinks evil and assumes an admission of guilt. For this reason, my reports will be structured in such a way that I will set up a list of unanswered letters. All letters I sent were faxed. In German legal transactions, faxes are treated like registered return receipts and are therefore deemed to have been delivered. I will also always fade in the proofs. I have used this meticulous working method from the beginning of my clearing up work. It had to be reckoned with the fact that I will fail one day on the official way with my revelations and will be forced consequently to publish my findings. Requesting German authorities to unravel money laundering is impossible on a large or small scale.